Okay. So, good morning, class. Yesterday we did Merchant of Venice. We started the class. Those who did not attend, I'm sending explanation one to you, where we covered about the two friends, Antonio and Bassanio, and how they went to Shylock for asking for money. And though Antonio was a rich merchant, but his ships were still sailing and his money was floating, so he wanted money for his friend Bassanio, who wanted to marry a girl called Portia, and for that he needed money. So both of them finally went to the moneylender Shylock, who knew that Antonio was a good man, but he placed up a condition that I know that you are a good man and you can. mm, your assurance is good enough and you will be sufficient to pay me back, but yet your ships are still sailing. They have not reached the shore. So, and he needed to talk to Antonio face to face. So, with that enters Antonio. Bassanio says it now. This is Signor Antonio. Now, Signor means it's a sign of respect, Sir Antonio. Here enters Mr. Antonio, yes, Sir Antonio. Okay. Shylock aside. That means he's just not talking to somebody, but he's talking to himself. How like a frowning publican he looks. So now the first negative comment or the thought tells us about Sherlock, how shrewd he is. Like when he's talking publicly good things about Antonio. But at the same time, deep in his heart, when he's talking aside, he's calling him frowning publican. That means a person who's flattering, who's you know, a collector, money collector or a tax collector, right? Because he was into the same profession as Sherlock was, and both were contenders. So he did not like him much. And the next line says it also. I hate him for he is a Christian. Now, Sherlock was a Jew, and Antonio, being a Christian, he disliked him. But more for that, in low simplicity, he lends out money gratis and brings down. So now he's saying, I know I don't like him, I hate him because he's a Christian. Apart from that, more over, he's a simple profiled man. He's a generous man who has been giving loans to people and has asked for lesser interest. Okay, he was very good at bargain, free of interest. Many a times he had given things. He had just given for grants. The rate of interest here with us in Venice. So now he brings down the rate of interest also. That means whenever he gives money to anyone, he's been kind to that person and he had either given it in a grant as a grant, that means free of cost, and he wanted a return with no interest, or he would take a very nominal interest. So now this made people go to Antonio for help instead of going to Shylock, who was a money lender and who took large interests also. If I can catch him once upon the hip, I will feed fat the ancient grudge I bear him. And I is saying if I could ever lay my hands on him, if I could somehow grab him, then that will be a biggest achievement and I will put him down in his work and would shine high. So now Bassanio, Shallow, do you hear? So now since he's talking to himself, he's engaged in his thoughts. So Bassanio shook him up and he says, are you listening? Are you hearing? Antonio has come. Sherlock, I am debating of my present share store. I cannot instantly raise up the gross of full 3,000 ducats. But wait a minute. How many months do you desire? So now he's saying, in my mind, I was just debating about my present store. That means how much do I have to count on? How much I can really give it to him? So he says, I cannot immediately Give him the total amount which he wants of full 3,000 ducats. But wait a minute, how many months do you desire? So he says, yeah, I still want to know how many months would you take this money for? Antonio, Shylock, although I neither lend nor borrow, by taking nor by giving of excess, yet to supply the ripe wants of my friend, I'll break a custom. To Bassanio, does he know how much you need? So now Antonio enters and he talks directly to Sherlock and he tells him, "Ki neither I lend nor I borrow." Now he is not lending and borrowing as a person. He only lends money to the needy. Whenever anyone comes for a help, he does it. Otherwise, he is not into money lending or borrowing of it. But he says that, but I do not give in excess and neither I take in excess. And I just need the money right now because it's my friend's immediate need which I had to come to you, which made me come to you. Okay, so that is why I'm breaking this custom of lending and borrowing, which I never did earlier. And then he asks to Bassanio that does he know how much you need? So he's asking his friend. He does the money lender Shylock knows how much you need the money, the amount of it. Shylock, I, 3,000 ducats. Antonio, and for 3 months. So now he's confirming it. Uh, it is 3,000 ducats which he'll be taking for 3 months. Is this much clear to each one? We move further.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for responding. This tells me that you all are listening at least. Whenever I put up a question, at least have a decency. Yesterday, the network was not working very smoothly, so I wasn't sure that whether you all are hearing me or not because you didn't answer any one of you. But it's okay. I know you are scared of answering. It's okay. Shylock, 3,000 ducats. Tis a good round sum. So now he's repeating it. He's saying 3,000 ducats. That's a big, huge amount to give away 3 months from 12. Then let me see. This kindness will I show. So now he's saying 3 months. For this 3 months, this money, 3,000 ducats, is a huge money, will be blocked. So let me see if I can show my kindness or will it cost something. Go with me to a notary. Seal me there, your single bond, and in a merry spot. So now he's putting up a clause. He says, okay, let's go to the notary. Now, who's the notary? Where all the legal documents are sealed and written. So he says, let's go to the notary and let's get this document, a bond, sealed by him properly as a merry spot, as a rightful thing to do. Sport here means that the proper uh, rules to be followed while you are dealing with the bond. So that is why he calls it a sport. Okay, just as any sport follows the proper rules and regulations. So that is what he wants to do when it comes to the signing of the bond. Okay, if you repay me not on such a day, in such a place, with some or sums as are expressed in the condition, let the forfeit be nominated for an equal pound of your fair flesh to be cut off and taken in what part of your body pleases me. Now, these 4 or 5 lines are very important as they very clearly say. He says that he, I'm ready to lend you the money, but supposing anything goes wrong, let me have a proper bond sealed and written in which it should be said that if you are not able to pay on the particular day at that particular place, that same particular amount which you have asked for, then instead of that, instead of that money, he should be able to take away. Forfeit means to give a penalty of 1 pound of fair flesh. That means उसका flesh चाहिए था उसको. Okay, to be cut off. It could be taken away from any part of the body which Shylock pleased, whichever part of the body he
After
wanted
it
to
was
take it
started,
on.
okay, those questions only, I guess you are not coming down to the level of the truth. When you will not come down to the level of the
Please switch off your mics. Yes. Bassanio, you shall not seal to such a bond for me. So now, hearing this bond, Bassanio, his friend, Antonio's friend, he was taken aback. He said, no, this should not be the bond. And you, Antonio, you shouldn't be signing it. Antonio, why fear not? Why fear not, man? I will not forfeit it. Within these 2 months, that's a month before this bond expires, I do expect return 3 times the value of this bond. So now Antonio assures, ki, why aren't you making me sign it? Let this be the bond. Let him take away 1 pound of flesh in return. Don't worry. Do not fear this bond. I will not forfeit it. And I'll not be afraid of it. Uh, I will not have to pay the penalty. Why? Because within these 2 months, leave the third month, within these 2 months only, my money will be uh, there in plenty because he was knowing that his ship would sail and reach the shore and he will have the riches. So he knew that the bond would expire before the 3 months and he would be able to return the money. The 3,000 ducats would be in 3 times value. He would in return, once his ships are reaching the shore, he would get the money 3 times of what he has asked for right now. Antonio, yes, Shylock, I will seal onto this bond. So now he says, don't worry, Antonio, don't worry, Shylock, I'm ready to follow the bond as you say, the way you want. After the loan is secured, Portia and Bassanio are married. Unfortunately, Antonio had made a bad choice of ship and captains. His ships are lost and wrecked at sea. This is what the wicked Shylock had desired. He takes Antonio to court to demand his pound of flesh. Bassanio receives this news. Bassanio too returns to Venice to try to save his friend. So now the scene 2 opens, just as scene 1 opens at a marketplace, at uh, you know, a public place it opens. Now the second scene opens at a court of justice in Venice. And why does it happen so? Because Antonio's ships could not reach the shore. The captains were poor in dealing with the ships, and they met the storm. They got wrecked. They were broken and lost, and so he was out of pockets. He didn't have the money to pay back. And Bassanio, on the other hand, had married Portia and was living in a peaceful and happy married life. But hearing the news of the bond, and Bassanio returns back to Venice to meet his friend and to save his friend. So we stop till here, and in our next class we'll take up the next in the story.